I'm Maya Jackson, 13, and the moment I saw her blood on the pavement, I knew I'd crossed a line the world wouldn't forgive. My hands shook as I stood in that Atlanta alley, the air thick with the shouts of police telling me to back away, their eyes pinning me like I'd swung the fist that broke her nose. Just minutes ago, I'd been a nobody, a black girl from Vine City with a notebook full of play scripts and dreams of directing, but now I was a suspect, my courage twisted into a crime. It started when I cut through the alley off Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, avoiding the kids who laughed at my thrift store backpack. I heard a scream, raw and desperate, and saw 3 white men in Urban Renewal Corp jackets beating a woman in a tailored blazer. She was black, middle-aged, her dreadlocks matted with blood as she fought back, her voice fierce despite the blows. "You won't silence me." One man, tall with a cruel smirk, raised his fist again, and I couldn't just watch. Grandma always said to stay out of trouble, that girls like me don't get second chances, but her pain felt like mine, like the times I'd seen Grandma wince from overwork, or when my brother Jamal was stopped by cops for walking home. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and shouted, "Stop. I'm filming this," while slamming a trash can lid against a wall. The noise echoed, neighbors leaned out windows, and the men froze, startled. The woman need one attacker, and they fled, but not before the tall one spat at me, "You're done, kid." I rushed to her, my heart hammering. She was gasping, her face swollen, but her eyes locked on mine with a fire that made me shiver. "You're braver than most," she rasped, then whispered, "They killed my husband, too." Those words hit like a thunderbolt. Killed? Who? Why tell me? Sirens wailed, and I tried to call for help, but she gripped my wrist. "Don't let them bury this, Maya," she said, her voice a plea and a command. Her name, I'd learn, was Dr. Vanessa Carter, a civil rights lawyer, and in that moment, I felt like my scripts had come to life, casting me in a role I wasn't ready for. The police arrived, and the world turned cold. 2 officers, their badges glinting, didn't ask if I was okay, they demanded to know why I was there, their voices sharp. "What's a kid like you doing in an alley?" One asked, his gaze flicking to my hoodie like it proved guilt. I told them I saw the attack, described the men's jackets, even showed my video, but they brushed it off, saying, "We'll handle it." At Grady Memorial Hospital, 3 miles away, nurses gave me sidelong glances, like I might cause trouble. I sat in a waiting room, my phone clutched tight, while cops whispered, their notepads filling with words that felt like lies. Vanessa was rushed to a private suite, and I hoped she'd tell them I saved her. But then a woman in a crisp suit stormed in, Lillian Hayes, Vanessa's campaign manager, her face all sharp angles and suspicion. "This girl's the hero," she scoffed, barely looking at me. "She's probably in on it." Her words cut deep, like I was nothing but a stereotype. She told security to get me out, saying Vanessa didn't need street kids complicating things. The guard's hands hovered near me, and I walked out, my chest burning with anger and confusion, Vanessa's whisper echoing, "They killed my husband, too." I kept replaying her words, wondering if her husband faced the same world that judged me before I spoke, that made Grandma's coworker call her lazy despite her double shifts. Back home, Grandma was a wreck, having seen news of the attack. When I told her everything, how I helped Vanessa, how the cops and Lillian treated me, she hugged me, her voice trembling. "You're my brave girl, Maya, but this world don't reward bravery from us." Her fear hurt worse than Lillian's words, because I knew she was right. At school, my drama teacher, Ms. Ellis, already acted like my scripts were too ambitious, saying, "Stick to simple stories, Maya." The cops' questions, Lillian's sneer, it was the same voice, telling me I'd never belong. That night, I couldn't sleep, Vanessa's whisper of fire in my mind. I grabbed my notebook, scribbling a script about the alley, pouring my rage and hope into dialogue. It was my way of holding the truth, even if the world wanted to erase me. Grandma tried to shield me, saying to let it go, but I couldn't. I started a secret project, a community theater group with friends, planning to stage stories of injustice. At school, I helped Ms. Green, our neighbor, carry groceries, earning a quarter for Grandma's bus fare, but whispers followed me. Did Maya really help that lawyer? The news called Vanessa's attack a random crime, ignoring the attackers I'd filmed, making my courage invisible. I felt like I was shouting into a void, but then I thought of Vanessa's plea, don't let them bury this. Lillian was the real villain, I realized, not just for dismissing me, but for her cold ambition to control Vanessa's story, to keep her from fighting. She'd been against Vanessa's push for police reform, saying it was too divisive, and now saw me as a threat to her polished narrative. I wondered if she'd sabotage Vanessa's work to protect her own power, the way she'd silenced me at the hospital. My video burned in my phone, proof of the truth, but sharing it could bring more trouble, cops, maybe worse. As I sat on our couch, the Atlanta skyline 8 miles away, I felt Vanessa's words pull me forward. Was I brave enough to fight a world that saw me as nothing? Or would their lies bury me, too? Thank you for your instructions. I'll continue with part 2 of the story Against the Grain, a cry for justice, following the requirements you've outlined. This will be a 1,300-word continuous prose narrative in English, written in the first person from Maya Jackson's perspective, focusing on racism and adhering to Outline A's structure for part 2, titled The Weight of Doubt. I'll ensure coherence, emotional depth, and consistency with part 1's characters, Maya Jackson, Vanessa Carter, Lillian Hayes, Grandma Lena, etc., and setting, Atlanta's Vine City. The content will avoid repeating part 1, introduce new developments, and align with the U.S. audience aged 25 to 55, using no profanity, vulgarity, or references to alcohol, drugs, or guns, mild slang like dang, if needed. I'll deepen the drama, explore characters' inner thoughts, and develop secondary characters and the villain, Lillian, without dividing into sections or using icons. The canvas feature is disabled as requested. Below is part 2, designed to flow seamlessly with part 1 and build toward a unified story. The days after I saved Vanessa Carter felt like walking through a storm with no shelter. I'm Maya Jackson, 13, and I thought bravery would make the world see me, but instead, it painted a target on my back. At school, the whispers followed me like shadows, kids asking if I really helped that famous lawyer lady, their voices a mix of awe and doubt. My drama teacher, Ms. Ellis, who'd always skimmed my scripts with a frown, now watched me like I might disrupt her class just by breathing. Last week, I'd been invisible, a black girl from Vine City with dreams of directing plays, but now I was a puzzle no one trusted. My video of the attack, burning a hole in my phone, was proof I'd done right, but Grandma Lena's warning rang louder, keep that to yourself, Maya. Truth don't always set you free. Her eyes, tired from years cleaning offices, held a fear that made my chest ache. She'd seen too much, her brother jailed for nothing, her son, my dad, gone after a routine police stop. I wanted to believe Vanessa's whisper, they killed my husband, meant she'd fight for me, but the hospital's cold dismissal and Lillian Hayes' sneer told a different story. Lillian, Vanessa's campaign manager, wasn't just mean, she was a wall, keeping me from the woman whose life I'd saved. I overheard her on a news clip, calling the attack a tragic fluke, never mentioning me or the Urban Renewal Corp men I'd filmed. It felt like she was erasing my truth to protect something bigger, maybe her own power over Vanessa's work. I started to see her not just as rude, but dangerous, someone who'd twist the world to keep people like me small. At home, Grandma tried to keep things normal, cooking collards that filled our apartment with warmth, but her hands shook more now, her arthritis flaring under the stress of my spotlight. She'd sit with me at night, reading my new script about a girl who fights injustice, her voice soft but proud, you got a gift, Maya, but gifts come with a cost. Her words hit hard because I felt that cost everywhere. My best friend, Darnell, 16 and lanky, got pulled in by police as a suspect in Vanessa's attack, even though he was at his grocery store job when it happened. I visited him at the precinct, 2 miles away, my heart sinking as he sat behind glass, his usual grin gone. They said I fit the description, he told me, his voice low. Black, young, in Vine City, what else they need? His arrest wasn't just wrong, it was a mirror, showing me how fast the world could turn on us. I showed my video to the desk sergeant, my hand steady despite my racing pulse, but he waved me off. We got our guy, kid. The rejection burned, making me wonder if Lillian had a hand in pointing the cops at Darnell, keeping the real attackers, those urban renewal guys, safe. I started a community theater group with Darnell's sister, Aisha, to cope, planning a play about Vine City's struggles. We rehearsed in a church basement, kids my age turning their pain into lines that echoed our lives. Aisha, with her quick wit, wrote a scene about Darnell's arrest, and I felt a spark. Maybe our stories could fight back. Meanwhile, Vanessa was recovering, but I couldn't reach her. I called her office, 6 miles away in Midtown, but Lillian's voice always answered, cold and final, Dr. Carter's unavailable. I wondered what Vanessa thought of me now. Did she believe Lillian's lies, that I was trouble? Her whisper about her husband haunted me, and I dug online, finding articles about her work against police brutality. Her husband, a journalist, had died in a suspicious car crash after exposing corruption. Had they meant the same system that targeted Darnell? I wrote a poem about it, my pen scratching out her pain and mine, but fear stopped me from sharing it. Lillian's influence grew clearer. She'd been on TV, framing Vanessa's attack as a reason for tougher policing, the opposite of Vanessa's mission. I started to see her as a puppet master, using Vanessa's pain to push her own agenda, maybe even to silence her reforms. Her prejudice wasn't just personal, it was strategic, keeping black voices like mine and Vanessa's from shaking the status quo. School became a battlefield. Ms. Ellis accused me of plagiarizing a script I submitted for a citywide drama contest, saying, "This is too polished for you, Maya." The word stung, like my talent was impossible because of where I lived. I'd spent nights crafting it, inspired by Vanessa's courage, but Ms. Ellis's doubt was a slap, echoing the cop's suspicion. I argued back, my voice shaking but firm, and she sent me to the principal, who suggested I revise under supervision. I refused, earning a detention that felt like a brand. My classmates, even Aisha, started pulling away, unsure if I was a hero or a troublemaker. The isolation hurt worse than the accusations, making me question my own worth. Was I foolish to think I could change anything? Grandma saw my struggle, her eyes soft as she said, "They want you to doubt yourself, Maya, but you keep writing." Her faith kept me going, but the weight of being unseen pressed harder. One night, I snuck to the library, 1 mile away, to research Urban Renewal Corporation. Their name was everywhere, buying up Vine City lots, pushing out families like mine. A news article mentioned their CEO cozying up to city councilors, and I wondered if Lillian was connected, if she'd helped bury my video to protect their schemes. I emailed it to a local reporter, my fingers trembling, but got no reply. The silence felt like a wall, and I realized Lillian's power wasn't just in her words. It was in her ability to control the story. She wasn't just Vanessa's gatekeeper, she was a gatekeeper for a system that thrived on our silence. I thought of Vanessa, trapped in recovery, maybe unaware of how her own team betrayed her. My theater group became my lifeline, our play growing bolder, with lines about Darnell's arrest and Vine City's fight. Aisha suggested we perform it publicly, but I hesitated. Lillian's influence felt like a shadow, ready to crush us. As I walked home, the Atlanta skyline glowing 7 miles away, I felt Vanessa's plea, "Don't let them bury this," clash with Grandma's fear. Darnell was still locked up, his court date looming, and my video was a spark no one would light. Lillian's face flashed in my mind, her sneer a symbol of every door slammed in my face. Was she just prejudiced, or was she guarding something bigger, like urban renewal's grip on our neighborhood? I added a new scene to our play, a villain who silences truth, my pen fueled by anger. But doubt gnawed at me, Could a kid like me take on someone like her? The city's lights felt mocking, a reminder of a world that didn't want my story. Yet Vanessa's whisper, her fire, burned inside me. If I didn't fight, who would? I'm Maya Jackson, 13, and the fire that took our home showed me how fast the world can burn down your dreams if you're a black girl from Vine City. It was 3 a.m. when the alarm screamed, smoke choking our apartment as Grandma Lena coughed, her arthritis making every step a battle. I grabbed her arm, my heart racing, and led her down 6 flights of stairs, her weight heavy against me. But I couldn't stop there. Miss Pearl from next door was too frail to move alone, and Mr. Ellis, blind and stubborn, needed guiding. I ran back up, the heat searing my lungs, shouting their names until they followed. By the time firefighters arrived, I'd gotten 12 neighbors out, my throat raw but my resolve iron. On the street, we watched flames devour our building, 3 miles from Atlanta's glittering skyline, and Grandma held me tight, whispering, "You're our guardian, Maya." But her eyes were hollow, her life's savings, photos, quilts, my old scripts, gone. Then I saw it. A pickup truck with Urban Renewal Corp's logo idling nearby, its driver watching the blaze like it was a show. My phone, still holding the attack video, felt like a lifeline, and I snapped a picture of the truck, my gut screaming this was no accident. The next day, city officials called the building a loss, offering vouchers that wouldn't cover rent in Vine City's rising market. Whispers spread, Urban Renewal had been buying up our block, and now they'd get it cheap. The fire wasn't just a tragedy, it was a theft, and I felt Lillian Hayes' shadow behind it. She wasn't just Vanessa Carter's gatekeeper, she was a cog in a machine that crushed people like us, and her dismissal of me at the hospital now felt like a warning. School became a tighter vice. I'd entered a citywide playwriting contest, pouring my heart into a script about a girl fighting for her neighborhood. When I won second place, I thought Ms. Ellis might finally see me, but instead, she called me to the principal's office, her voice cold. "Your work's too advanced, Maya. Did someone help you?" The accusation hit like a punch, as if my mind couldn't hold such words because I was from Vine City. I'd stayed up nights crafting it, inspired by Vanessa's fight, but Ms. Ellis's doubt was a mirror of the cop's suspicion, Lillian's sneer. I fought back, my voice steady, I wrote every word myself. The principal, caught between fairness and bias, suggested I rewrite it under supervision. I refused, earning a week's suspension that felt like a scar. My classmates whispered, some calling me a cheater, others too scared to defend me. Aisha, my theater group partner, stayed loyal, but even she looked at me differently, like my defiance might cost us all. The isolation gnawed at me, making me question if my dreams were too big, if I was fighting a battle I'd never win. But Grandma's voice cut through, "They want you to shrink, Maya. Don't give them that." Her faith was my anchor, but her health was slipping, coughing fits from the smoke, hands too stiff to hold a spoon. She missed shifts, our savings drained, and I started tutoring kids for spare change, hiding the coins so she wouldn't feel the weight of my help. Across town, Vanessa was piecing together her own fight. I learned from a news clip, from miles away, that she was out of the hospital, speaking at a rally against gentrification. Her voice, still raw, called out Urban Renewal's land grabs, and I felt a surge of hope, she hadn't forgotten. I tried emailing her, attaching my video, but Lillian's name was on the reply, "Dr. Carter is focused on recovery. Please refrain from contact." The rejection stung, but I saw Vanessa's truth in her speech. She'd lost her husband to a system that protected the powerful, and now Lillian was caging her voice. I researched more, finding Urban Renewal tied to a councilwoman, Diane Holt, who pushed zoning laws favoring developers. Lillian had donated to Holt's campaign, a thread that made my skin crawl. Was she shielding Urban Renewal to keep Vanessa's reforms at bay? My theater group became my rebellion. We staged our play in a park, 1 mile from the burned building, drawing 50 neighbors who clapped as Aisha's lines about Darnell's arrest rang out. I added a scene about a fire stealing homes, my words sharp with truth. Aisha suggested we start a community mural project, painting our stories on Vine City walls, and I poured my poems into designs, sketching flames that turned into fists. It was risky, Lillian's allies could shut us down, but it felt like Vanessa's plea, don't let them bury this. Darnell's case grew bleaker. His lawyer, overworked and underpaid, said the evidence, my video, was inadmissible without a witness. I visited him again, 2 miles away, his eyes dull behind glass. They want me to plead guilty, Maya, he said, his voice breaking. I didn't do nothing. His pain was mine, a reminder of how the system chewed up kids like us. I gave Aisha my video to share with her cousin, a blogger, but Lillian's reach felt endless. News kept calling Darnell a suspect, ignoring urban renewal. I wondered if she'd tipped off the police, using Darnell to distract from her allies' crimes. My mural sketches grew bolder, one showing a woman like Vanessa rising from flames, but fear crept in. What if Lillian saw it? She wasn't just prejudiced, she was calculated, her every move protecting a system that burned our homes and locked up our friends. Grandma's health scared me most. Her cough worsened, and a clinic visit, 3 miles away, confirmed bronchitis from the smoke. Medicine cost more than we had, and I saw her hide the pills, saving them for bad days. Her sacrifice fueled my anger, but also my doubt, was I dragging her into danger with my fight? One evening, I stood by our shelter's window, a church basement 2 miles from our old home, staring at Atlanta's lights. Vanessa's rally replayed in my mind, her fire a call I couldn't ignore. But Lillian's shadow loomed larger, her lies a wall between me and the truth. My mural, half painted on a community center wall, was a start, but Darnell was still caged, and Grandma was fading. I added a line to our play, they burn our homes, but not our hearts. It was a promise, but could I keep it? The city's glow felt like a taunt, daring me to fight a system that saw me as nothing. Vanessa's whisper, they killed my husband, too, was a spark, but was I strong enough to make it a flame? I'm Maya Jackson, 13, and the moment I saw Vanessa Carter collapse, I knew the truth I'd been carrying could no longer stay silent. It was a chilly December evening, and I was at Vanessa's downtown Atlanta loft, a temporary haven after the fire stole our home. Grandma Lena was recovering in a clinic 4 miles away, her bronchitis easing but her spirit worn, and I'd been staying with Vanessa, who insisted I wasn't alone in this fight. But the world had other plans. Child Protective Services arrived unannounced, 2 caseworkers and a police officer at the door, their faces stern as they claimed I couldn't stay with Vanessa, a single woman with no legal ties. The accusations, laced with whispers of inappropriate influence, felt like a slap, their eyes judging me as a problem, not a girl who'd saved a life. Vanessa, her dreadlocks pulled back, stood tall despite her healing bruises, her voice sharp, you have no grounds to take her. She's safe here. But Lillian Hayes's shadow hung over us, I'd learned she'd tipped off CPS, spinning lies to keep Vanessa from me, from her own mission. Lillian wasn't just a gatekeeper, she was a saboteur, her prejudice a weapon to protect urban renewal corpse grip on Vine City. As the officer stepped forward, demanding I leave, Vanessa clutched her chest, her face twisting in pain. She crumpled to the floor, gasping, and my heart stopped. The caseworkers froze, but the officer muttered, she's faking it, his hand on his radio like I was the threat. I'd seen enough health videos in school to know this was real, heart attack, maybe worse. I knelt beside her, my hand steady despite the panic, turning her on her side and checking her pulse. Call an ambulance. I shouted, but they hesitated, their eyes on me, not her. My phone was in my pocket, and I hit record, capturing their inaction, the officer's sneer. This kid's trouble, just like the report said. I kept my voice calm, talking to Vanessa, stay with me, you're strong. Paramedics arrived in 8 minutes, stabilizing her, she'd had a stress-induced cardiac episode, they said later, but my video was already more than evidence. It was a cry, a spark that would light up the truth I'd been fighting to share. I uploaded the footage to our theater group's new podcast, Vine City Voices, Aisha had set up, my fingers trembling as I typed. This is what they do to us. By morning, it had 3 million views, spreading across X with hashtags like #MayaFights and #JusticeForVineCity. The raw truth, a 13-year-old black girl saving a civil rights lawyer while officials stood idle, shattered the lies Lillian had spun. WSB-TV, which had called Vanessa's attack a street crime, aired a correction, their anchor's voice tight as she named Urban Renewal as suspects. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution ran a front-page story, Teens Video Exposes Systemic Bias, and I felt a surge of hope, but also fear. Lillian wouldn't let this go quietly. Vanessa, recovering at Grady Memorial, watched the video from her hospital bed, her eyes wet when she called me. "You're my hero, Maya," she said, her voice weak but fierce. I didn't know how far Lillian went. She'd hired a private detective, Lisa Grant, to dig into Urban Renewal, and Lisa's findings were a bombshell. The attackers, led by a foreman named Victor Klein, were on Urban Renewal's payroll, hired by Councilwoman Diane Holt to silence Vanessa's anti-gentrification campaign. The fire that burned our home was no accident, arson, traced to a contractor Holt had paid to clear the lot. Lillian had known, Lisa found, feeding Holt information about Vanessa's movements, ensuring the attack looked random. Lillian's betrayal wasn't just prejudice. It was a calculated alliance with a system that profited from our pain, and I felt a chill realizing how close she'd come to burying us all. The video's impact rippled through Vine City, 5 miles from the hospital. Protests swelled outside City Hall, 500 strong, with Aisha leading chants, "Free Darnell. Stop the lies." Darnell, still locked up for Vanessa's attack, became a symbol, his face on signs next to mine. I spoke at a rally, my voice shaking but clear. "They burned our homes, jailed our friends, but we're still here." The crowd roared, and I saw Grandma Lena in the back, her smile frail but proud. Her health was fragile, but she'd insisted on coming, saying, "You're fighting for us all, Maya." Aisha turned Vine City Voices into a weekly podcast, streaming stories of profiling and displacement, reaching 20,000 listeners in days. She interviewed Ms. Pearl, who'd lost her home in the fire, her voice breaking as she described 40 years in Vine City. The podcast wasn't just a voice, it was power, forcing Atlanta to listen. But Lillian fought back. She leaked emails to Fox 5 Atlanta, twisted to paint Vanessa as unstable and me as a manipulative teen. The lies stung, but worse was the city's response. Holt proposed a curfew in Vine City, claiming youth unrest, a move to silence our protests. I wondered if Lillian had planned this, using her connections to crush us while protecting Holt's empire. At school, the fallout hit hard. Ms. Ellis, now openly hostile, failed my latest script, saying it was too political. Classmates who'd cheered my video now avoided me, scared of the spotlight. The principal called me in, warning about disrupting the community, as if my truth was the problem. I felt like I was drowning, my courage a weight pulling me under. But Aisha's faith kept me afloat. She'd painted a mural of Vanessa and me, fists raised, on Vine City's community center, and kids added their own designs, turning it into a tapestry of resistance. Grandma, weaker but fierce, read my new poem about the fire, her eyes shining. "You're writing our history, Maya." Her words reminded me why I fought, for her, for Darnell, for Vanessa's husband, whose death I now saw as part of the same system that targeted us. Lisa pushed for justice, meeting District Attorney Marcus Bell, a sharp-eyed prosecutor who saw the video's political weight. With Vanessa's backing, she presented the evidence, my attack video, the arson report, Lillian's emails to Holt. Bell, sensing a career-defining case, dropped charges against Darnell and issued warrants for Klein and 2 Urban Renewal contractors. Darnell's release was set for next week, and I cried when Aisha told me, relief mixing with exhaustion. But Lillian's retaliation was swift. She fed a story to CNN, claiming Vanessa's radical ties endangered Atlanta, and Holt's allies pushed back, delaying the arrests with legal maneuvers. I stood by the mural, 1 mile from our shelter, my phone buzzing with podcast notifications. Darnell was almost free, Vanessa was fighting, but Lillian's lies were a storm gathering strength. My script for our next play grew darker, a villain like Lillian weaving webs of deceit. Could our truth outrun her power? The skyline, 7 miles away, felt like a challenge, daring me to keep going. Vanessa's whisper, "They killed my husband, too," was my fire, but would it burn bright enough to light the way? I'm Maya Jackson, 13, and the truth I fought for didn't just free Darnell, it carved a new path for Vine City and for me, though the weight of that journey still lingers in my bones. When my video of saving Vanessa Carter went viral, it wasn't just a spark, it was a wildfire, burning through Lillian Hayes's lies and showing me what justice could look like when you refuse to stay silent. Darnell's release, a week after the video hit 3 million views, felt like dawn breaking. I stood outside the detention center, 2 miles from our church shelter, my heart pounding as he walked out, his lanky frame folding into Aisha's hug, then mine. "You saved me, Maya," he said, his voice cracking, and I cried, not just for him but for the girl I'd been, scared, doubted, thinking one brave act in an alley couldn't matter. The federal investigation, fueled by Lisa Grant's evidence, tore down the walls Lillian had built. Victor Klein and his Urban Renewal Corp crew confessed, naming Councilwoman Diane Holt as their puppet master, her resignation a public unraveling as she faced conspiracy and arson charges. Lillian's arrest was quieter but sharper, indicted for obstruction, her emails to Holt exposing her role in the CPS attack that tried to tear me from Vanessa. I watched her on WSB-TV, 4 miles away, her face pale as she was led away, her power shattered. But Lillian wasn't just a person. She was a mirror of a system that had killed Vanessa's husband, burned our home, and caged Darnell. Her prejudice, cloaked in polished suits, taught me that evil doesn't always shout, it whispers, weaving lies to keep people like me invisible. I wondered if she'd ever see the pain she caused, or if her heart was too cold to care. Vine City rose from the ashes, not just surviving but thriving. Vanessa, her strength returning, built the Jackson Community Center where our burned building once stood, 3 miles from Atlanta's skyline. It wasn't just a place, it was a vow, with resident-owned apartments, a theater for our plays, and a clinic where Grandma Lena shone as a wellness coordinator. Her bronchitis had faded, but her hands still trembled, and her new role, earning $70,000 a year, gave her a purpose I'd never seen. "You made this possible, Maya," she said, her eyes bright, but I knew it was her courage, years of scrubbing floors, raising me, that had carried us here. The center's theater became my sanctuary, where I directed Vine City Rising to 200 neighbors, Aisha's lines about Darnell's arrest drawing gasps and cheers. We started the Vine City Art Walk, an annual festival where our murals, mine of Vanessa, fists raised, drew 3,000 visitors, sparking shops and jobs. Vanessa's Carter Justice Fund, honoring her husband, gave grants to groups like ours, not as handouts but as equals, letting us shape our future. I felt his spirit in every painted wall, every spoken line, his fight woven into ours. My world shifted, too. I joined a magnet art school, 5 miles away, where teachers praised my scripts, though I struggled to trust their words after Ms. Ellis's betrayal. I launched a youth theater program at the center, teaching kids to turn their pain into plays, their voices a shield against doubt. Aisha, my co-director, grew Vine City Voices into a national podcast, reaching 100,000 listeners with stories of hope. Darnell, quieter now but strong, mentored younger kids, his warmth a reminder of why we fought. School wasn't all rosy, some peers resented my fame, their whispers sharp, and I wrestled with fear that Lillian's world still waited to judge me. Her trial, 4 miles away, ended with a guilty plea, her apology empty. I acted for order. Order for who? Not us. Her words were a ghost, haunting me with the truth that systems don't change unless you make them. Vanessa and I became family, our losses, her husband, my dad, binding us. She shared his stories, how he'd exposed corruption until it cost him his life, and I told her about Dad, lost to a police stop that wasn't routine. "We're warriors, Maya," she said, her hand warm on mine. "You gave me back my fight." Her words mended my heart, but I saw her grief, her choice to step back from rallies to focus on the center, her fire now a steady glow. Grandma found joy, too, teaching kids to cook collards, her laughter a song. "This is our home," she said, and I felt it, the center was us, unbreakable. The fight didn't end. New laws threatened Vine City's youth, and media sometimes slipped back to old lies. But we were ready, staging plays at City Hall, 2 miles away, forcing leaders to hear us. The Art Walk inspired events in Birmingham and St. Louis, proof our model could spread. Looking back, I see a girl who thought courage was enough, learning it takes truth, community, and love to change a system. I learned that racism isn't just hate, it's doubt in a teacher's eyes, silence in a newsroom, a fire set to steal homes. I learned to trust my voice, even when it shakes, and to see allies like Vanessa as partners, not saviors. Most of all, I learned that justice isn't a moment, it's a legacy, built daily, fiercely, together. Now, I'm asking you, if you were in a situation like mine, facing drama, heartbreak, and social injustice, how would you approach it to achieve the best outcome? Would you speak up, like I did with my video, risking everything for truth? Would you build, like Vanessa, turning pain into hope? Or would you stand with your community, like Aisha, amplifying voices no one hears? I'm still writing, still fighting, and I know you have a spark, too. The skyline, 7 miles away, isn't just a view, it's a call. What will you do with it?